Today on Christian World News, in Somalia, two terrorist groups carry out a reign of terror. Find out why this man was targeted and how he made a daring escape. Plus, after weeks of fighting in the southern Philippines, a look at how churches are helping refugees in the region move forward. And first, the government seized their children. Now they've been reunited, but they haven't won their fight to homeschool. Find out what's next for this German family. The U.S. targets radical Muslims on the Horn of Africa. Hello, I'm Gary Lane. The U.S. military raid on Somalia after the terrorist attack on a Nairobi mall is putting the terrorist group Al-Shabaab in the spotlight. The radical group has terrorized Somalia for years, and most of the time it's Christians who are in the line of fire. We have an exclusive look at a safe house where converts from Islam are finding refuge.
Somalia's Islamist terror group Al-Shabaab recently joined with Al-Qaeda. It now wants Sharia law and to rid the Muslim country of all Christians. Specific targets are Christian converts from Islam. This Al-Shabaab video swept the internet in September 2008. It shows the brutal beheading of 25-year-old aid worker Mansour Mohammed. He converted to Christianity in 2005. 1 year ago, this Muslim convert to Christianity was awakened in his home by Al-Shabaab soldiers. We agreed to protect his identity and give him a different name, Abdi.
They ransacked my house, searched my bag, and found several pages from a Bible. They had crosses on them.
Abdi was taken away, imprisoned, and tortured.
Tell me what they then did to you and what they said to you.
I was blindfolded, and they put me in a dark, underground cell. They beat me up with a wooden baton. They wanted to know where I got the Bible pages, and if I knew of any others like me. When they finally took the blindfold off, I noticed 3 dead bodies in the room. They placed them there just to frighten me.
His torturers said they were going to kill him, but late one night, Abdi and 2 cellmates made a daring escape.
The guards thought they had locked our cell door, but it wasn't locked. We opened it, ran to the wall, and started climbing. The guards opened fire on us. Bullets killed one of my cellmates, but the other prisoner and I jumped over the wall.
Reunited with his family, Abdi is now living in a safe place. He says he still suffers physical pain from the torture he endured. Spiritually, he feels closer to God.
I was happy to go through all this because now I'm stronger spiritually. People prayed for me to escape. Their prayers are what saved my life.
Somali Christian leaders estimate less than 200 Christians exist in this country of 10 million. Secret believers like this woman, she wants us to call her Fozia, often suffer punishment and humiliation for refusing to conform to Islamic law. Fozia says as a Christian, she could not bring herself to abide by Al-Shabaab's requirement that women wear a burqa. While Fozia dressed modestly, she did not want her face fully covered. Al-Shabaab Sharia police, similar to these on patrol in Banda Aceh, Indonesia, noticed Fozia walking in public without a burqa.
They said the clothing I was wearing was unacceptable. They said I was naked.
Fozia received a public flogging, punishment similar to that inflicted on this Pakistani woman by the Taliban. Fozia received 30 lashes. She inched her way home despite debilitating injuries.
A female neighbor came to my house to wash my wounds. I was bleeding, my flesh was peeling, and it was extremely painful.
Fozia says it's too risky to own a Bible, so she listens to nightly Christian radio broadcasts from neighboring Kenya. Fozia found refuge at the home of a Christian friend in another Somali city. But what happens to other Somali Christians when their lives are threatened for leaving Islam? Some are receiving help from an American mission group. This safe house not only gives former Muslims a place to eat and sleep, it also provides them with spiritual fellowship and discipleship. It's run by mature believers who host no more than 2 people at a time. Eventually, this safe house will help these temporary residents transition to life on their own. Basma was 7 months pregnant when her Muslim husband divorced her. With nowhere to go, she returned to her mother's house, where she delivered her baby. But when Basma's family discovered she had become a Christian, her stepfather kicked her out of the house.
He said I was infecting the entire household, and he threatened to kill me if I didn't leave.
Basma was forced to live on the street with her infant until a VOM worker met her and offered her refuge at the safe house.
I was praying that God would give me a house where I could sleep. This is a very good house, a house of worship, a house of God. He answered my prayers.
Fozia and other Somali Christians are praying for a better life, one free from the oppression of Al-Shabaab and other Islamists.
Pray that we Somali believers will live our lives closer to the kingdom of God. Pray that we will endure the weight of life in this Islamic nation.
I visited a number of secret safe houses around the world, and they're vitally important places, especially for former Muslims. Often their lives are threatened by family members, and the safe houses provide them with a secret place of spiritual support and refuge. A new video released by Nigeria's Boko Haram warns the terrorist group possesses enough weapons to sustain a lengthy struggle to Islamize that nation. Boko Haram has killed more than 2,000 Nigerian Christians in recent years. Abila Adamu was among those targeted. Militant Islamists shot him in the face last year, but he survived the attempted murder. CBN News spoke with Abila about his ordeal.
Now he told me, "Are you a Christian or Muslim?" I say, "I am a Christian." One of them now ordered me to deny my faith in order to survive. And I told them that I will not deny my faith. I'm ready to die as a Christian. Before I closed my mouth, one of them fired me with AK-47.
To see more of that interview, visit my blog, The Global Lane, at cbnnews.com. Many of the victims of the recent tragic shipwreck off the coast of Sicily are said to be African Christians fleeing persecution. More than 250 migrants fleeing Africa for Europe died when their ship caught fire and sank near the island of Lampedusa. A priest who ministers to the migrant community told the World Watch Monitor that many of the survivors are Christians. I look at the list of the survivors, and 90% is Christian. Father Musi Zarai said they're coming from Eritrea and Ethiopia. Eritrea is ranked number 10 on the list of global persecutors by Open Doors International. That's a ministry to the persecuted church. Well, after weeks of fighting between Philippine troops and Muslim rebels, the conflict in the southern city of Zamboanga is over. Now leaders face the difficult task of rebuilding their community and helping residents move forward. Surprisingly, it's an area of churches that are reaching out to the mostly Muslim victims. CBN Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan reports from Zamboanga.
Christina is still shaken as she recounts how God miraculously saved her from being hostage at the height of the fighting. She went up to her room to rest when the MNLF Muslim rebels barged into their boarding house and took with them her 3 female housemates.
I cried out to God to help me and surrendered everything to Him. A mortar exploded near our house, and I could hear empty shells fall on the roof like rain. After 2 days, I managed to get out of the house and leave the place by pretending to be Muslim.
The conflict in Zamboanga is not about religion, but that didn't stop the Muslim rebels from detaining Christians to act as human shields. Christina now stays at their church. Her pastor, Yoli Trinidad, also shares the horrifying accounts of her relatives who were held hostage for more than a week.
8 of my relatives were detained by the MNLF. They said they were ordered to walk under the heat of the sun, and they beheaded with their machetes those who became weak and threw the dead bodies in the houses that they burned.
In the midst of the crisis in their city, Pastor Yoli and her husband shouldered the burden of caring for the suffering refugees, especially the infants.
When I prayed to God, He told me this is the time for the churches to go out and fulfill Matthew 25 that says to feed the hungry, to clothe them, and to help those in need. My husband and I went to the stadium and we brought with us Muslim mothers with children and little babies who were just 2 weeks old.
Pastor Yoli is grateful to partner with CBN.
We now have 130 evacuees, but we don't have the capability to supply all their needs. And that is why we are very happy when CBN came to Zamboanga. They united our churches and empowered us to help our communities. We are able to give food not only to the evacuees but to the military as well. All these years we are praying for the unreached people groups. And now they have come out, and we can easily reach out to them.
Most of the evacuees in this school come from the Muslim-dominated villages that are indifferent towards the Christians. And that is why the church volunteers here are happy to have been given the opportunity to serve them and to share with them the love of Christ.
One Muslim evacuee told me, "You are different. The Muslims hostaged the Christians, and yet in return, you care for us."
I am a Muslim and I have never entered a church before. This is the first time. But here I am happy because we are safe and comfortable. And the Christians give us everything that we need, especially for my grandchildren.
Our city is facing a difficult crisis, but God's purpose still prevails. What the enemy meant for evil, God turns into good. It's a time for God's love to shine.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Zamboanga, Philippines.
Up next, this family is back together after the government took their children. But Germany's war on homeschoolers continues.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
The U.S. government shutdown will likely mean another weekend of canceled church services on American military bases. As we reported, some Catholic priests have been prevented from carrying out their duties as chaplains. They're on furlough because they're considered non-essential personnel. Well, after reports of priests being barred from serving their parishioners, the U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed a resolution allowing chaplains to keep working during the shutdown.
One priest I talked to showed up, the door was locked, and said, "Go away," and trying to visit with parishioners coming into the parking lot, crying and upset, and there to celebrate their faith. Unnecessary pain is being interjected into political debate. Again, this is the first time. There have been 16 Sundays since the mid-'70s that we've had a governmental shutdown, lapse in funding, and here we are. This is the very first time this administration chose to lock the door on people, men and women of faith.
Congressman Huelskamp says barring priests and closing war memorials are examples of the administration's politics of pain. Well, a German family finally has been reunited after their children were taken away to stop the parents from educating them at home. Dale Hurd has this disturbing report on the German government's crackdown on homeschoolers.
Another German homeschooling family was ripped apart when an army of German police officers and social workers surrounded the home of the Wunderlichs near Frankfurt a few weeks ago and took away their children. Their only crime was homeschooling. After an international outcry and a court hearing, the Wunderlich children were returned. But this was not a victory for homeschooling or parents' rights in Germany, because the Wunderlichs have been forced to send their children to school, and they still do not have custody. Michael Donnelly with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association.
Well, this is a victory for a totalitarian regime that is bent on dictating to parents what they can and can't do with their children regarding their education.
The German government acts obsessed with stamping out homeschooling, believing it's both child abuse and subversive. The chief organ of state control of families in Germany is the Jugendamt, or Youth Office. It is a nationwide system of local child and family agencies that has extraordinary power. German court documents provided to CBN News show that the Jugendamt is allowed to lie in court and ignore judges' orders. No German parent wants to run afoul of the Jugendamt, or Youth Office. Once the Jugendamt decides your family has a problem, it can ruin your family. When we filmed the Wunderlich family last year, the children were obviously happy and well-adjusted and loved their parents.
If you could see them before, they are so joyful. The children have a paradise here. If you look out in our garden, and they can do their interests, and they have a very happy life.
But the Jugendamt has taken plenty of happy and healthy children too. The arbitrary and capricious way the Jugendamt moves against good families has led some to the conclusion that the system amounts to a child trafficking operation, in which a steady supply of children is needed to make sure foster homes, social workers, and court-appointed experts get paid.
There is a system of persons, of social workers, of teachers, of psychotherapists, who live on children being taken out of family.
We call it industry.
Carola Storm-Knirsch is a psychologist who has worked for the Jugendamt on several cases.
There are homes with empty beds and they need children. And they call the Jugendamt and ask, hello, do you have a child for us?
They destroy humanity.
Dirk and Petra Wunderlich believe that in their case, God intervened and turned the judge's heart to return their children. But it's not at all clear how long they will have them. Their attorney, Andreas Vogt.
In some months, in a few months, the court will have a look on the family, and then will decide if what will happen with custody in general.
Mike Donnelly says the international community needs to put more pressure on Germany to respect human rights. Today, Russia has more educational freedom than Germany.
We are very concerned about Germany's behavior in this area. We're going to continue to put pressure on Germany to make them change the way they treat parents. What they're doing is wrong. They're persecuting parents who choose to educate their children at home, and they need to stop doing that.
But for now, the Wunderlich children are just happy to be home. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, it's one of the hottest party destinations in the Mediterranean, but a small band of believers claim the Devil's Island for God.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Mediterranean island of Majorca belongs to Spain, but some say it belongs to the devil. Millions of European tourists come here to party nonstop in the island's discotheques. But this year, a small group arrived on a countercultural mission. Andrea Garrett explains.
10 million tourists visit the island of Majorca every year. Nearly a third of them are Germans, who gather at the Ballermann, known as the place they do everything they're ashamed to do at home. But this year, visitors were surprised by some unusual encounters.
There was one person with pain in his foot. When we prayed, his pain was all gone immediately. He had an amazing encounter with God.
He put his hand on my knee and prayed for me. And after that, I have to say, I was completely surprised that it worked. The pain really was gone. It really worked.
Dennis was one of several who said he was healed, and many became believers as German and Swiss Christians prayed for them. Gernot Elsner led the Gospel Tribes team.
Why are you here at the Ballermann? That is the question I am asked the most frequently. This is the last place on earth I would have expected for somebody to talk to me about God. Every night I speak to so many people, and if the moment comes in which they sense the presence of God around them, through prayer, through words, some begin to cry.
This prayer thing really makes people happy. To hear somebody say that there is a God who believes in you, don't know, can't describe it. It is really cool.
Each of the 50 missionaries followed a simple strategy, asking people if they had a need they could pray for right then. Soon, people were seeking them out for prayer.
Simply that you guys come to Majorca and spend time among all the drunk and aggressive people and pray for them, that's really unique. And even with the two of us, when somebody prayed for us the first time, we both got goosebumps. Even now, if I just mention it, you can see it. Makes us happy. Makes us happy.
Responses like these encouraged team members.
Especially here where darkness seems to be the greatest, God delights in displaying His light and glory.
Based on the success of the Majorca mission, Elsner hopes to double the size of next year's team to 100 volunteers. Andrea Garrett, CBN News.
To view this story and others in Spanish, visit our sister website, Mundo Cristiano TV. We'll be back.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
If you had the opportunity to come before Almighty God to ask one question, what would that question be?
Well, I'd ask God, why is there so much suffering in the world?
What's my purpose in life?
I'd ask him, when will my wife recover?
How's the world gonna end?
I'd ask him, what's it all about?
I'd ask, how should we live our lives?
Pat gives you the biblical answers for life's most important questions. In the 700 Club's newest DVD, Pat Robertson teaches, How Shall We Now Live? You'll discover the purpose God has for you, why there is so much suffering in the world and the origin of evil, what heaven is like, and how to know for sure you'll go there, how to live a blessed life and have a closer relationship with God, and much more.
We perish for lack of knowledge. If we understood what God wants to do, it would open up a whole treasure trove of opportunities for us.
Pat Robertson teaches, How Shall We Now Live? Available now.
3 weeks after massive storms brought devastation to large areas of southern Mexico, thousands of victims are still stunned by their loss. CBN and Operation Blessing are on the scene, helping people trying to recover. Beyond the city of Acapulco, with its luxurious hotels and beautiful beaches, lie many communities untouched by millions of tourist dollars. These poverty-stricken areas were devastated last month when Mexico was punished by 2 powerful storms. Over 100 dead, thousands of wounded, and 1 million people affected, many losing their homes and livelihoods.
No quedó nada.
But some are receiving welcome relief thanks to Operation Blessing and CBN Mexico. Residents urgently needed safe drinking water, so the team installed water purification plants, helping thousands to avoid sickness from contaminated water. In other communities, they set up portable kitchens, allowing flood victims to cook safely without having to cut trees for firewood.
I don't have to look for wood. I don't have to cut the trees. It's not pollution. Okay, no pollution. There's nothing. The kitchen is worked very well.
Operation Blessing Scott Hill traveled to many desperate communities.
There was no water anywhere. They couldn't drink water. They couldn't use water to wash anything. Operation Blessing put a water purification unit in, and obviously the families were just incredibly grateful. And one man especially, who lived about 30, 45 minutes away and had come walking because his family didn't have clean drinking water.
And CBN's Mexico director says his team also brings storm victims a message of hope.
We arrived to the house of Aurelio. He was an elderly man. He lost everything he got, and he was wondering how he was going to survive because he lost his small store. Operation Blessing and CBN arrived and brought a mobile kitchen, and then he was able to eat every day, and he was also able to share all the food with his neighbors and families. And he asked us at the end of the visit to pray for him, and he was thankful to God because he provided for his meal and his survival.
For disaster victims like these, simply knowing there are people willing to come and help makes a difference. CBN and Operation Blessing will stay in the area to continue to help Mexico's storm victims during their long recovery. Well, thanks for joining us this week. And as usual, we always appreciate your comments. You can send us an email at our webpage or hit like and follow us on our Facebook page for updates weekly. Wendy and George will be back next week. And until then, goodbye. God bless you. Thanks for joining us.